What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I think you kind of already understand what's going on right now. So more work on the Turbo Del Sol now. Car's pretty much ready for the dyno at this point. I drove it to work yesterday, kind of get a feel for it. A few minor issues though. Something that the first one was easy, got it fixed on my lunchtime. Car was overheating a bit. Like halfway there I ran into some traffic on the way in, and then halfway there car started overheating a little bit. Never got over 3/4, would just creep up, and then that was it. And then when I would stop, it would actually some reason drop down a little bit. So I was like, you know, that kind of sounds like an air pocket, or maybe my fan could be wired backwards, even though I matched black to black, blue to blue, just like the factory one was. And you know, that's actually what ended up being, was that my fan was wired backwards. So cheap fan, cheap wires, wrong colors, whatever. So it's all good now. The cooling issue is taken care of. The other issue I ran into though, oil leak, pretty good oil leak. And then the third issue I ran into is this turbo may not have been rebuilt correctly. So everybody told me to give it a couple days. Turbo smoked a little bit on first startup and cruising around, and now it's from what I've noticed, it's only on deceleration when there's like a lot of back pressure or whatever, and then I let off the gas, like put it in the neutral or whatever, and then a few seconds later I'll get a poof of smoke. Not a crazy amount, but I'll just keep watching it. But the thing that I have to do right now, besides try and fix the oil leak, that's the oil pan gasket. I'm like 99% sure, because like I said before, I suck terribly at those, and I knew I would have to end up changing it out again. But I don't know. I'm gonna try and see if I'm gonna drop the pan, see if the gasket's bad. If it's reusable, maybe I just over tighten that one corner and it like squished it out a little bit, and then I'm gonna just clean it really well and Honda Bond both sides of it. You know, both mating surfaces. And then I do have to switch to a thicker oil. So I know there's gonna be a lot of controversy in the comments from you guys, I'm sure. Right now I'm just running Valvoline 530. I know that's too thin at this point, other than for being a turbo. So I'm gonna jump it up to maybe Castrol 1030 and see how that goes. I know a lot of you guys are gonna say 2050 synthetic or Rotella 1540 or whatever. Yeah, I'm going by my bearing clearances, and being that I'm a stock engine, I'm only rated for like really 1030. So I'm gonna try 1030, see how that works, see if it slows down a little bit of the smoke. Maybe it's just because the oil is basically becoming water because it's too thin at that point, and it's just being able to seep into the turbo or something. So we'll see. I'll switch to 1030 and then see how that goes up until the dyno, and then if it's any issue after that, I'll probably switch to the Rotella like everybody else does, but I don't know. We'll see. Because I can't figure out exactly where this leak is coming from, if it's whether it's the pan gasket or maybe my flange has a pinhole in the weld or something. I'm gonna go ahead and idle it up, or fire it up and let it idle for a little bit. Obviously build some oil pressure, shut it off and wait for it to leak. But I also plan on taking out my cherry bomb resonator because it's really big, and my exhaust is all messed up in the middle from when I originally put it on, since my old header sat so low, the back end sat so high, so I ended up like dipping in the center, so now it's dragging everywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that cherry bomb out because I want more of a straight through anyway for when I'm at the dyno. So I went ahead and disconnected my V-band right there to just make it open down pipe, and I kind of want to hear how it sounds anyway. So I know with the rest of the exhaust, it'll make it a lot quieter than just an open down pipe right underneath me. But I'll get the same general idea. But yeah, I'm gonna do this, wait it out, see what happens. So naturally, this thing just does not want to leak now. I'm pretty sure it's just because I didn't drive it, so it needs like that pressure built up from driving it. But it is what it is. I found a leak from my VTEC feed line on the back of the block, so I just snugged that up a little bit more. Those AN fittings are so sensitive. It's like you could have it just an absolute tiniest hair loose and it'll start dripping, and then you just snug it up that like 1 millimeter of a turn, and then it's good to go. So hopefully that one should be good to go now. But I'm gonna run down to the store, go get some oil, and maybe scoop up a little bit of exhaust piping so I can fix that section now. And I see a lot of you guys talking about, okay, that's not hot, talking about this manifold in the comments. I know it's just a little eBay cheapy one, and a lot of you guys have had issues with it cracking. So far, drove it 4 times now. Obviously I wasn't getting in boost, and boost will make a difference because the excess pressure in here, but hasn't cracked yet. I did reinforce the back of it with these stainless steel rods. It had some plate steel, and it was just really tin can sounding, and now it's really solid sounding. So I'm pretty confident that this thing's hardly gonna crack, and when it does crack, it's not that hard to just patch it up until I can find a better one. The only issue with finding a different one is I'm afraid I'll get a different style, and then I'll have to redo maybe this section of charge piping and my downpipe, which took me a long time to make. So I'd rather just keep fixing this one if I can get away with it, if the cracks aren't too severe. Flame me if you want. A lot of you guys will talk crap, I'm sure, but you know, perks of me being able to fix it myself and you not being able to, and then crying about a broken part. So just comes with the territory, I guess. Cheap parts, you got to make them better. So back now from running some errands. I swung by my local exhaust shop, picked up 3 feet of 2.5-inch piping, so that way I can, you know, replace that cherry bomb and fix that center section. I tried doing some research while I was there. Really the only way I could get any 1030 oil is to go with a high mileage. I'm not too keen on high mileage from what I know about it. It's got basically stuff that makes the seal swell. It's not so much the seal swelling that could be my issue. It's the de-swelling if I ever switch off. Could cause leaks. So I don't know. It is what it is. A few uses, if whatever, won't hurt me. But this new formula stuff I saw in all these newer Castrol brands, they got some turbo formula, so it's supposed to be more heat resistant and blah blah blah, stronger under pressure, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna give it a shot, see if it works. But I'm waiting for my buddy to text me back here and let me know about this oil pan gasket, if maybe they have a warranty or something. I'm not sure, because if they do, I'm gonna pull the pan, I'm gonna go replace the gasket. So I'm kind of hesitant on that. I know a lot of you guys on the Del Sol group sent me links to this other Speed Factory one or something that's like a 3-layer gasket or a 3-piece gasket, and it's supposed to be really good, but I don't really have the money for that right now. I already got the exhaust dropped on the front half now. I just got the 2 bolts right there, so I'm gonna just go ahead and unbolt those and pull that apart and start cutting it up. As you can see, this piece is very crooked. So the V-band I welded on, I'm gonna keep that, I'm gonna just cut that like right there or whatever. But yeah, the rest of this, mostly right here, you can see how it has that like V to it, which sags very low. And yeah, again, like I said, I did that because just the way the exhaust was at the time with the header, I made do with what I had, and it worked because this was more tucked up, but now it is not tucked up. So go ahead and cut this section out and get my measurements and get to welding. So I got my flange here, my V-band, and then I got my back section here. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt these both up, and then, you know, just stick the other pipe in the center, mark it where it needs to be cut, cut it, and weld it.
In the middle of cutting all that, got a pleasant surprise, and all my waterline fittings and hose came in a couple days early. So I ordered, what is this, 12 foot of -6 line. I got two M14 by 1.5 to -6s. These go on the turbo for the inlet and outlet. And then the hose came with a bunch of these red and blue fittings. And I ordered 2 extra 90s because I need 90s, but they accidentally sent me doubled up. So I got 4 90s now, plus the 2 90s that came with the line. So this is everything I need to make the water lines for the turbo. Super stoked. I'm gonna try and do that today as well. So somehow, totally accidentally on purpose, sort of, kind of, got the exact length cut. So it was literally perfectly edge to edge. I slid it over like a 1/4 inch on this piece, so I didn't want to cut it. I'd rather just slide it over since it fit. And now I got it tacked up. I'm gonna go ahead and weld it all the way around and then add the hangers. I cut those off, they're over there, and then add those, and then this is all good to go. It is all done. Alright, so it's all welded up. Looks pretty good, definitely pretty hot. Go ahead and slap this back up and get the hangers welded up. Yeah, it'll work pretty good. Exhaust is good to go, so I'm gonna start working on the water lines now. Kind of ruined my other shirt. Got it super dirty crawling around, rubbing underneath the side of the car or whatever with all the freaking years of oil and gross stuff down there. So water lines, and then that is freaking it. My tuner actually was emailing me because I've been emailing him back and forth since I started this whole thing. And so we set up a date for the 26th, so I'll be getting tuned on the 26th, assuming this all goes smoothly and I can get rid of the stupid oil leak out of the pan or whatever this is. But yeah, as of right now, we're aiming at the 26th. This is the fitting that I'm using to feed the water. This goes into the freeze plug that's right here. So yeah, this will replace that, and that turns into a -6 fitting here. And then the turbo feed inlet, or the water feed inlet, is on the back side of the turbo here. Kind of a pain to get to, so I'm probably gonna have to take the manifold off again. And then here's the outlet right here. And then I'm gonna go into the bottom of the radiator. So I do have to drain the radiator and redo the cooling system again, rebleed it. But that is just the same reason why I put distilled water in here, so that way I wouldn't have to worry about wasting coolant. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some sort of bucket just so I don't have water laying everywhere, especially if I have to lay on the ground here, and get this all poured apart. I do need a new radiator cap, I think, because this one is a cheapy one. I don't really trust it, so I'm gonna go up to the store and swap that out quick and just be safe. Yeah, this gasket's already going bad, you guys are right. So good thing I am still just waiting on a new one to come in the mail. But yeah, a new multi-layer one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these turbo fittings on now, the lines that go into the turbo, and then pull this plug out of the block. I think it's like a 19 or a 21 millimeter, but it's a big one. So these ones that go in the turbo are M14 by 1.5 thread pitch to a -6, and they come with a copper crush washer so you can, you know, not leak. So this is what the factory turbo uses, being this is an SR21. It's a banjo bolt, so obviously I don't have the factory hard lines or a banjo bolt or banjo fitting, so I'm using these ones to a -6, and just go ahead and thread it right in just like I did the other one. Run into a little bit of fitment issues with these fittings because they're like longer than I had anticipated, and so the turbo, obviously I just have it with the one bolt right now, so I can't do the block to the back of the turbo. I'm gonna have to loop it under because it is pressure fed. Obviously it's the pressurized cooling system, so it will be able to travel uphill this little bit to come to the fitting here, and then I can have it exit out of the back and go down to the radiator where I'm going to be plumbing it to. So I know that that's okay because it doesn't matter which side is in, which side is out for the water lines. That's coming from Garrett, actually, like from Garrett turbos. The oil feed and drain obviously matter, but the coolant lines are either direction. They flow either way. They're not too particular. As long as there's coolant flowing in there, that's all that matters. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim some line up now. The best way to trim this, because it is steel braided, is put some tape on the end where you're gonna cut it, and then cut through it like that, cut the end of it, so that way it doesn't flare and get all pricky and you just stab yourself or prick yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut to length and yeah, screw these on here. This block fitting, huge pain in the butt. I had to use a big old monkey wrench to try and tighten it, so it should be good now. I put a lot of Honda Bond on it, as I do with all my fittings that go into the block and head, to prevent some leaks. So hoping that I can get this done correctly or decently, because this is going to be a tight fit, especially with the charge pipe. And I'm going to have to modify my wastegate actuator again. I'm going to have to cut the welds here and just rotate the skull a little bit, because as it sits now, it's touching the corner of the 90 coming off the front of the turbo, and I don't think it's going to be able to activate correctly because of that. So I'm going to have to rotate it just a little bit to give it a little bit of clearance. So it literally took me the past hour and a half to get this one line made. I'm not going to lie, AM lines, the big one for the oil pan was super easy. I cut it first try, didn't fray or nothing. But this line, I don't know if it's because I don't know, maybe it's smaller line, it frays easier because it's tighter wove or what, but it's the most single-handedly frustrating thing I've had to do on this swap so far. So I am extremely irritated, so I'm going to go ahead and try and finish making the rest of this line. Yeah, AN lines, although beneficial, suck to make. There it is. It's not tightened up, but that's how it's going to go. But I don't have my fitting for the radiator yet. That's the one thing that didn't get delivered. That won't be here till Friday, so that sucks. But I'm still gonna cut the other line roughly to length, so that way I can at least get the frustration of getting one more fitting put on done today. Here's the second line made, so the 90 coming off the turbo, and then it'll kind of cross over back, and then 45 onto the radiator. So that's all good. But now I do have to I'm gonna have to try and take the turbo off and get all these fittings done, tighten down on the turbo first, because I can get to this one with a wrench as is, but I can't get to the turbo fittings without the turbo being off. There's just absolutely no room. So I'm gonna have to do that, snug those up quick, and then go ahead and, like I said, modify this a little bit. And then after that, I'm calling it a day. I'm really surprised myself that I'm going through all this trouble to just make this turbo setup work. This is definitely one of those cases of, if it's not one thing, it's the next. So I got the thing clearanced. I went ahead and notched the fitting a little bit because I have extras of these and this is on there, so I don't need, and I got the other side, so I'm not worried about that. So I notched it, and the wastegate actuator, wherever it went, clearances now, but the holes to mount the actuator stripped somehow. So the bolts just pulled the threads straight out. These are the bolts that came with the turbo. So now I gotta chase the threads and try and get it to be retapped. So thankfully I was able to tap it out. I just had to I found some bolts that were just like 2 or 3 threads longer, and that helped bite the bottom. So this is on. I just gotta put the little ring on really quick, and I'm gonna put this all back together. I'm gonna bring this video to an end, so let's kind of recap what we got done today. So up top here, We got the water lines hooked up, modified the wastegate actuator a little bit. We got the exhaust taken care of. So all in all, pretty productive day. Did not go as smooth as I hoped it would, especially with stripping bolts, etc, etc. All that's left now before the tune is the oil pan gasket. So assuming that this all went smoothly today, these AN fittings are so hard to do for some reason. I'm gonna call this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, hope you stick around. And in the next video, hopefully get the oil pan gasket taken care of, and then get this thing tuned, and then we'll just kind of we'll see where we go from there. Don't really know what's going to be coming up for content now, because I just ordered a ticket to go back home in November, so I need to start saving some money. So I'm going to kind of chill out now, especially once the Del Sol is tuned and hopefully leak free. It's going to be more or less filming other people's stuff for a while and more skating now that it'll be cooling off here very, very shortly. It's already down in the 90s. So anyways, guys, do what you love. Forget about the rest. Keep building some fun. See you in the next one. Peace out.